Chances are, if you're watching this, you use YouTube as a resource before you make that big purchase or invest in a brand new camera or a whole camera system. There's a lot out there, there's a lot to digest, and it's hard to know really who to listen to because everyone has different motives. Today I'm going to break down 4 types of YouTube reviewers. I'm going to give you the pros and cons of each and hopefully give you some insight on who to listen to before you spend your hard-earned money on your next camera purchase. As always, guys, don't forget to check out my online store at justinmott.com where I've got presets, I've got prints, and I've got a variety of one-on-one classes for those of you out there interested in learning, open to all levels and all genres. All that's available at justinmott.com. Maybe you're scrolling through YouTube, feeling good about your camera equipment, and you saw that Peter McKinnon just did his latest review, and his mind is blown, and now he's fully switched because Canon just released the 5300 DXTR with nano-pixelated, with nano AI retina tracking. I can't make these up that good and I can't remember them. Or maybe Gerald Undone says to pass on the new Fuji X32T17/8 because Sony's coming out with the Sony blah 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 blah, and it's actually going to be $100 cheaper and has a better battery life, and it's going to have 1.2 million ISO, so you can shoot all those shots that you've always wanted to take in pitch dark. Or perhaps maybe your favorite Leica user / reviewer, someone like me, is talking about the brand new Leica M1 Black Pink Edition that is a steal at $100,000. And the cool thing about this camera is it only takes one picture and then you have to throw it away, but it truly makes you appreciate the shot and it makes you slow down as a photographer. My point is there's a lot out there. There's a lot to digest, a lot of people saying different things, a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different motives. So today I'm gonna sift through those people and give you 4 types of YouTube reviewers. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of each, and I'll end with telling you who you should listen to and why, or you can make that decision for yourself. So before I get into all these different types of reviewers, I just wanted to preface everything by saying this is not meant to bash anyone. I think there's a lot of solid information out there. There's a lot of people I am going to talk about have a lot of value in the industry, and you can learn a lot from them. My point is you should listen to each one of us and be a little bit wary and understand our backgrounds and understand who you are as a photographer before you make a purchase. So I don't want you to blindly listen to anyone. That's kind of the point. You don't have to watch the rest of the video. That's it. Don't listen to any of us. Listen to all of us, and then make a decision yourself. Video done. All right, I'm going to start with the first reviewer. I'm going to call this person the camfotainment person. This is the person that's mixing camera reviews with entertainment. This would be like your Peter McKinnon types and all of his disciples. And there's a lot of them out there. They all kind of mimic him, and I don't blame him or them because it's working for them and he has millions of subscribers. But you get what I mean. This is the type that's gonna like make their video really fun, really sexy, really quick cuts, sexy b-roll of the camera, talk a little bit about the features, probably use the camera a tiny bit, but probably spending more time on making their video than they are actually using the camera. The pros of this camfotainment person are gonna be, first of all, it's gonna be entertaining. It's gonna be quick, it's gonna be punchy, and it's going to be fun to watch. So that's a pro. Another pro is they're probably going to have the latest stuff. Because they have such a huge following, they're going to have the latest equipment, and they're probably going to understand the market a little bit because they've used all the latest equipment quite frequently. The cons are you can go down a rabbit hole of watching him and all of his disciples. I mean, if you actually just watch like one of his videos and then all of his, like all the crossover and collaboration people, they're all kind of the same, and they're all kind of saying the same exact thing. So it can end up being quite a waste of time. So I'm not saying don't watch one of them, but you don't need to watch like the other 10 because they're usually like watching him and then mimicking what he does. Another reason is they're not using it in the way that you would probably use it, or maybe they are, but most likely they're not. Most of the time they're not out there actually taking pictures with it frequently. They're doing their videos, and that takes a lot of work. So they're not really putting the camera to the test. That's going to be a theme throughout the day. What they're kind of doing is just giving you a quick preview of the features. They're testing out some of the brand new things. But again, they're not really testing it deeply. They're using it quickly, and then they're kind of just pumping out the next review, and then it's repeat. And also you have to consider with a lot of these guys, some have reached a certain level where they don't care about saying bad things about cameras, but that's part of their brand, is getting these cameras before they come out, getting that pre-release, testing the pre-release, and having these affiliations. So you're not always, some of them, yes, but you're not always getting an honest opinion about it. They're not always going to say something is wrong if they really feel it's wrong. And often, like I said, they probably haven't used it enough to know if there's something wrong with the camera. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to take a moment to like and subscribe. And if you're really enjoying it, if you're really vibing with me, take a moment to join my channel. It costs only $4.99 a month. You just hit the join button and you get exclusive content. You get priority in the comment section. I've got a whole bunch of bonus content for all of you guys out there. Hit the join button. It really does help me. It really does help the channel. It helps me create more videos like this. The next person I'm going to talk about would be the techie specky person. I'd say the king of this would be Gerald Undone. I actually watch his channel quite a bit. I think he's fantastic at really breaking down the features and the specs. So this person, this category, this type of channel would be breaking down the specs, talking about features, doing side-by-side comparisons, and talking about value compared to comparable equipment in the market. So the pros of this type of person is, if you're a techie person, they're fantastic. Even if you're not a techie person, which I'm not, it's still nice to know some of these features. It's still nice to understand how they stack up against comparable items in the market. So they're fantastic about that. Also great at helping you understand value because they know the market so well, or at least comparing feature-based value. So they can tell you kind of all the different camera brands in the market, which features they offer, and they understand it well. So they typically wrap the videos up quite well, comparing like, oh, I would say this is okay, but not as good as such and such. So the cons are, if you focus too much on the text, the features, they're important. Like I said, for me, I'm more into design and aesthetic and what a camera feels like, but I still need to know a little bit about the tech and the features, of course, before I make a purchase, especially for my commercial photography. And the opposite is true too. For those of you that are interested in megapixels and tech and features and that kind of stuff, it's also important, or you're gonna wanna know down the road what it's like to actually physically use the camera, the experience of using the camera. What's that like? And what's that like over a long period of time? And typically these people don't dive into that side of things. And actually most of them probably never left their studio or use the camera for like an extended period of time, or like a real amount of time, or even in a practical situation. And so oftentimes if they haven't left their home office, or if they haven't really used the camera practically, they can't really describe or can't give you any insight of what it's like to use that camera for street photography, what it's like to spend a day with it around your neck and in your hands, what it's like to travel with that camera, what kind of problems are gonna come up in different types of weather and different types of situations. Sure, they got the numbers, but they haven't practically done it. They haven't used it in real world and real life and real photography circumstances. The next group I'm gonna talk about is the one-dayers. This would be like your DP Review or your Kai W, where they actually have the latest gear. They go out and use the camera on the streets. They use it in practical circumstances, albeit for like a day or two. And they talk about the features as well. And while they're not quite like as in your face and as flashy as someone like Peter McKinnon, they do mix in a little bit of entertainment as well, and their personalities do shine through. So the pros of this group are that they've got the latest gear. They're using the latest gear in practical circumstances. So they're going out and using it, and they're using it in a way that they would normally use a camera. So they can really do a great job at comparing it to other cameras on the market because they're always using it the same way. So when you're looking at one reviewer using a camera and a different reviewer using a different camera, it's tough to compare. So this user is going to have some great insight on comparing cameras side by side because they've used whatever latest Sony cameras coming out in the same way that they're going to use the new Leica cameras coming out. So they're using it the way that they use it. So both the experience of using it and then post-production with the files as well. So they're going to have a pretty good understanding, even though they've probably only used the camera for a day or two, they're going to have a pretty good understanding about how the camera stacks up against other cameras in the market. They'll talk a little bit about the features as well. So you get a nice blend of features, tech, and real world usage. The cons, and yes, this is like the theme throughout, but the cons again are real use and long-term usage. How often are they using the camera? They're using it typically for a day or two, and they're typically using it maybe not in a way that you're going to use the camera, because usually they're going out, they're filming themselves, they're using it for a day or however long they have the camera for. And they're kind of doing the same thing, like going out in their neighborhood and they're just shooting like a couple shots with it, and it gets a little redundant. So it's consistent, but it gets a little bit redundant in how they use it and what kind of pictures they're taking, because they're always kind of taking the same thing. And the last camera review I'm going to talk about is where I classify myself, and this would be like the pro, the snob pro, although I don't consider myself a snob, although I might come off that way because I used to use Hasselblad and I currently use Leica, but I also use Sony. I don't think they're a snobby brand, but this review would be like the professional photographer that uses one brand of camera for a long period of time, talks about it from a professional's perspective. So the pros about the pros is we use the crap out of our cameras. We like really use them. We use them in real professional situations. We put them through the stress test. And so we'll really give you a good understanding about performance. We'll also give you a good understanding about durability, about aesthetic. We also have great insight about design and ergonomics because we've used these cameras for full working days and multiple working days. So we know what it's like to have that camera in your hand. We know what it's like to have that camera around your neck for an entire day. We know how that camera performs under stressful situations. And so we can give you a nice assessment about how that camera reacts in really difficult situations. Some people care about that, some people don't. And the cons are, as professionals, we aren't always relatable to amateurs just because we're looking for different things, not just in the features and the specs and the overall aesthetic, but also when we calculate or justify the purchase of a new camera. We're figuring that out based on income earned with that camera, where everyone else isn't. But I like to think of myself as trying to be more relatable because I do teach a lot of amateurs, so I try to think about what they need and why. So I try to talk about things from my perspective, but also make it relatable to other people as well. But not everyone does that. Another con is that we're typically loyal to one brand, even though, like I mentioned, I've used a lot of brands throughout my entire career. I have used those brands for several years. So chances are, if right now I'm using Leica for my personal work and Sony for my commercial work, those are probably the only two brands that I'm really paying attention to. So we're not going to have a good understanding, not typically have a good understanding of the market and value. And also, like I said, we have a different perspective on value because we're earning our money from that camera. So in the end, who should you listen to? Should you listen to me? Should you listen to them? Should you listen to all of us? I would say to watch and listen to maybe one or two people from each of those categories, because if you just listen to like 10 from one category, in the end, watch it. Seriously, watch a lot of these videos. They all kind of say the same thing and they do so in the same way. So also with all the different individuals that you listen to, factor in their background. Also factor in presently what they're doing. Are they using these cameras now? Are they using it the way you're going to use it? Are they actually taking it out and using it in the field? Do they have ulterior motives because there's sponsors at play? Is that important to them? Can they say something really bad about a camera because that might be risky for them, because maybe when Hasselblad releases their next camera, they might not send it to them and they don't want to risk that. Factor all that in, use good judgment, question things, act like a journalist. And lastly, remember who you are as a photographer. Be honest with yourself. And then you can make that decision about if that new camera system is for you, who you should listen to, or if you don't need a new camera system at all, which is probably the case for many of you out there. Probably a lot of you out there, it's fun, it's camera porn, it's good to look at this kind of stuff, it's entertainment, but most of you, if you're looking for a new camera because you think you're gonna take the same types of pictures as that person, it's not the camera, it never is, and that camera is not gonna give you that motivation, it's not gonna take better pictures for you. You need to find that motivation from within. It's nice to have a decent camera, but that's not gonna fix your problems. Going out and shooting, working on a personal project, practicing your skills and gaining that experience, that's gonna make you better, not new camera systems. I hope I wasn't too harsh on any group there. That wasn't my intention. They all bring different value to the table in this market, in this little camera review world. So anyway, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you learned something. Let me know who your favorite camera reviewer is and why in the comment section. That would be great. Or even let me know which camera you're considering next. Love to see that in the comments section. Love to have a dialogue there. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to have a wonderful day.